So imagine the absolute top performer in your industry, like a brilliant neurosurgeon holding a scalpel, or maybe a veteran test pilot, right at the edge of the atmosphere.
Oh, or a Fortune 500 CEO stepping up to the podium for the biggest presentation of their life?
Yes, exactly. Maximum pressure. Now imagine them in that exact defining moment, and they just completely freeze.
Just total paralysis.
Right. The scalpel drops, their hands start shaking uncontrollably, they sit down, they're hyperventilating. And, the question is, what causes the absolute best among us to just break like that?
It's a fascinating question, and honestly, it's something we usually try to solve with modern buzzwords, right?
Oh, totally. Like resilience training or burnout management. We act like some sleek HR department in Silicon Valley just invented these concepts last Tuesday.
Exactly. But what if I told you the ultimate step-by-step psychological manual for surviving those exact high-pressure moments was actually written 5,000 years ago?
And not in a boardroom, right? On a literal battlefield.
Yeah, it's such a profound juxtaposition. We have this this collective chronological snobbery, I think. We believe our modern psychological pressures are completely unique to us.
Oh, for sure. We think, oh, the relentless emails, the global market anxiety, the decision fatigue. Nobody has ever been as stressed out as our generation.
Right, but the human mind, just in its basic architecture and neurobiology, it hasn't changed. The sheer terror of high stakes, the paralysis of choice, these are ancient human conditions.
Which perfectly brings us to the source material we are diving into today, because for you, the listener, we are looking at a highly accessible, rigorously researched compilation and translation of the Bhagavad Gita.
And it's authored by Dr. Jirid Harbore, which is a really crucial detail here.
Yeah, because there are a million translations out there, right? But this specific text is so unique, it explicitly draws on the commentaries of a 17th century ascetic named Sri Raghavendra Tirtha.
And other great scholars of the Bhagavad philosophy.
Right. And if you were wondering what Dvaita means, it translates to dualism, which basically means it emphasizes that the world we live in is actually real.
It's not telling you to go hide in a cave and pretend the world is an illusion.
Exactly. It demands that we actually engage with the reality of our lives.
Yeah.
It takes this massive ancient epic and distills it into an applied psychological manual.
What Dr. Bore has done here is remarkable, honestly. He strips away that purely mythological barrier that sometimes keeps modern readers away from these ancient texts.
Yeah, it makes it incredibly practical.
Just for context, the Gita is a chapter within this massive Indian epic, the Mahabharata. The literal setting is a battlefield, Kurukshetra, right before a devastating civil war.
But the text explicitly supports an internal interpretation, right?
Absolutely. The battlefield represents the human body and mind. The warring families represent the constant daily strife between our good and evil thoughts, our clarity versus our crippling anxiety.
So whether you're a student prepping for finals or a professional staring down a huge project or just, someone trying to navigate this chaotic world, this deep dive is for you.
We're going to extract the core psychological teachings here.
Yes, our mission today is to build a practical, step-by-step, weekly plan for mental clarity. So let's unpack this. How does an ancient epic actually help us deal with our overstuffed inboxes?
Well, to understand the cure, we really have to thoroughly understand the disease first. We have to look at what causes our mental resilience to collapse.
Right, we can't just skip to the life hacks.
Exactly. And the brilliant thing about the Gita is it doesn't start with lofty philosophy or a meditation retreat. It starts right in the mud with a total psychological breakdown.
It really is cinematic. Let's set the scene for chapter 1. We have Arjuna. He is the greatest warrior of his time, an absolute apex performer.
The best of the best.
And he asks his charioteer, Lord Krishna, to drive right into the middle of the two massive armies. He looks out, and he doesn't just see faceless enemies. He sees his relatives.
His revered childhood teachers, his grandfathers, his cousins.
Right, and this unparalleled warrior just completely falls apart. The physical description is so clinical and honestly deeply relatable.
Oh, very relatable. In verses 1.28 and 1.29, Arjuna describes his own physiological symptoms. He says his limbs are weakening, his mouth is completely dry.
His body's trembling, his hair is standing on end. He literally drops his legendary bow.
He just sinks down into the chariot. If you took those symptoms to a psychiatrist today, they'd immediately say that's a severe, acute panic attack.
100%. And I want to pause here for anyone listening who struggles with performance anxiety. Arjuna's paralysis isn't a lack of skill. He knows how to fight. The physical combat is not the problem.
Precisely. And this is where the text offers a deep diagnosis of why we break down. Arjuna is described by the term nara, which means a bundle of human weaknesses.
Even with all his training, he's profoundly vulnerable internally.
Right. Why does he freeze? Because he is suddenly crushed by the weight of emotional attachments. He's terrified of the consequences. The text calls it misplaced compassion.
He realizes that doing his job is going to cause massive harm to things he's attached to. He's completely paralyzed by the stakes. He's catastrophizing.
He's entirely focused on the worst-case scenario. And what's fascinating is the text normalizes this response. He isn't portrayed as some weak novice.
No, the source explicitly notes he is an illumined soul, highly educated, yet under maximum pressure he falls into absolute panic.
It proves that even the greatest among us require profound psychological recalibration when the pressure peaks. It validates the human experience entirely.
It really does. Like, when everything is going fine, you don't question your psychological operating system. You just coast.
Right. But when the system crashes, when you're trembling in the chariot, that's when you become open to a paradigm shift. Arjuna has to realize his current way of processing the world is fundamentally broken.
So, if the root cause of the panic isn't lack of skill, but his absolute obsession with the stakes, how do we fix that? Arjuna basically wants to quit and live as a beggar to avoid the stress.
He just wants out.
Yeah. How do we do high-stakes work without the high-stakes anxiety? Does Krishna offer a cognitive workaround?
He does, and this is where we get into chapters 2 and 3, the path of action, or karma yoga. Krishna knows he can't just slap Arjuna on the back and say, toughen up.
Right, just be a man never works.
Exactly. He has to completely rewire Arjuna's fundamental definition of what success actually means.
And he does this in verse 2.47, right? Which translates so clearly. You only have the right to do your duty, and never to its fruits.
Never perform your duties with expectations of outcomes.
Okay, I have to play the skeptic here because my modern corporate-trained brain just short-circuits at this. If I genuinely do not care about the result, won't I just do a terrible job?
That is the most common visceral pushback.
I mean, everything is based on incentives. How do you stay motivated to do grueling work without the carrot at the end of the stick? If I drop the attachment, don't I drop my standard of excellence?
That's exactly what Arjuna struggles with. But Krishna is making a really precise distinction. He is not advocating for apathy. Apathy is doing a bad job because you don't care.
Okay, so what is it then?
This is nishkama karma. It means doing the absolute best job humanly possible, preparing flawlessly, but simultaneously releasing your psychological death grip on the reward.
Releasing the death grip. That's a great way to phrase it.
And the text gives a logical framework for why you must do this. It comes down to the illusion of control. In chapter 18, it outlines the 5 prerequisites for any action.
Okay, let's dig into those, because we all secretly believe we control our destinies if we just hustle enough.
We do, but the text dismantles that. It says for any task, you need 5 elements. First, the place of operation. Second, the performer. Third, the apparatus or tools.
Okay, that's 3.
Fourth is the ritual, or the specific effort. And fifth, the text calls divinity, representing the ultimate governing power of the universe, or unseen variables.
Let me try to translate this to a modern scenario. Let's say I'm pitching a career-defining project to a terrifying board of directors.
Perfect example. Let's walk through it.
Element 1, the place. That's the boardroom, the temperature in the room. Element 2, the performer. That's me, my voice, my posture. Element 3, the apparatus. My slides, my microphone.
Exactly right.
And element 4, the ritual, the actual effort of delivering the speech.
Now look at those first 4. As the performer, you have a high degree of influence over them. You can practice until you're flawless. But what is that 5th element doing?
Divinity. The unseen forces, the stuff entirely out of my hands.
Right. It's the mood the CEO woke up in. It's a sudden shift in the supply chain that makes your pitch unviable. It's a competitor who pitched a better idea an hour ago.
Wow. So the root cause of Arjuna's anxiety and our work stress is the arrogant assumption that we are the sole doers who can strong-arm outcomes into existence.
That's exactly it. We think if we just worry enough, we can force the universe to hand us the fruit of our labor. The unwise person considers themselves the sole performer.
So my anxiety isn't actually helping me prepare. It's just my ego throwing a tantrum because it refuses to accept it doesn't control the universe.
Beautifully put. When you tie your self-worth to the result of that presentation, which you categorically do not control, you are voluntarily choosing to live in fragile anxiety.
You're taking your peace of mind to a casino.
Yes. You're gambling it on variables you have no power over.
That reframes verse 2.47 completely. It's actually a hyper-focused technique. It's saying focus the 100% of your energy on the effort, because that's the only part you have jurisdiction over.
And once the words leave your mouth, the result belongs to the universe. This leads directly to equanimity, highlighted in verse 2.38.
Where Krishna says to treat happiness and sadness, profit and loss, with equipoise.
Exactly. When you internalize that you only control the effort, you step off the emotional roller coaster. If the board gives you a standing ovation, you don't inflate with arrogance.
Because you know external factors aligned in your favor. And if they reject it, you don't spiral into depression because you put in the highest effort.
Right. The text uses the word yajna, a sacrifice or offering. Work becomes an offering.
I love thinking about this beyond work. What about parenting? You do everything to raise a good kid, but you don't control the adult they become.
Yes, parenting is a brilliant application of nishkama karma. If you tie your worth to their success, you suffocate them.
Or dating. You can be a great partner, but you can't force someone to love you back. The action itself becomes the offering. You just contribute your energy.
This is the exact recalibration Arjuna needed. He had to fight not to win a kingdom, but because standing against injustice was his required action, regardless of survival.
It's a staggering paradigm shift.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. It is so easy to sit here and say, I am a Zen master. I will balance victory and defeat.
Of course.
But the second I get a passive-aggressive email from my boss, my heart rate spikes to 120. My ego screams to be defended. How do we physically train ourselves to actually do this?
You've hit on the limitation of pure philosophy. Without daily implementation, it's just nice poetry. We have to tame the instrument that creates the attachment on our mind.
Which brings us to the psychology of focus in Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga.
Right. The path of self-restraint.
There's a sequence here that is just striking. In verse 6.5, the text uses the Sanskrit word atma 7 times in one verse.
Yes, atma can mean self, soul, mind, or intellect. The text says one must elevate oneself through the mind because the mind is both your greatest friend and worst enemy.
It's terrifying, honestly. You are trapped in a room with your own mind your entire life. If it's your friend, it's a sanctuary. If it's your enemy, it's a torture chamber of anxiety.
And Arjuna has the exact same reaction you do. In verse 6.34, he offers this raw complaint. He interrupts Krishna and says the mind is wavering, turbulent, and obstinate.
He says trying to control it is like catching the wind, which is so relatable. Think about trying to sleep when you're stressed about taxes. The mind violently rejects focus.
Notice what Krishna does not do here. He doesn't offer toxic positivity. He doesn't say, it's easy, just try harder. In 6.35, he entirely validates the struggle.
He agrees it's exceedingly difficult.
He acknowledges it's the biological default to wander. But he provides a two-part solution, abhyasa, which is continuous practice, and vairagya, detachment from sense pleasures.
Let's dig into that detachment part. The text includes an analogy from the commentator Sri Jaya Tirtha about a drunk elephant.
It's an unbelievable analogy.
It asks, why can't I just let my senses run wild until they get tired? Why can't I consume until I'm numb? And it answers by comparing the mind to a wayward drunk elephant.
Think about an intoxicated elephant. It's massive, destructive, completely out of control. If you're a villager trying to tame it, you don't give it more alcohol hoping it passes out.
Right. If you do, it destroys the village and wakes up hungover demanding more.
Exactly. Let's translate that to a stressful Tuesday night. You're anxious, so you doom scroll for 3 hours or binge junk food. You're trying to feed the elephant.
You're giving it cheap dopamine. But the biology doesn't work that way. It'll just wake up tomorrow demanding a bigger hit. You have to physically practice pulling the senses back.
You must chain the elephant to a post. And that brings us to abhyasa, continuous practice described in verse 6.26.
This verse is basically the ancient blueprint for mindfulness meditation. It says, as the mind strays, forcibly bring it back to focus. I love the phrase, forcible return.
It completely removes modern meditation guilt. People sit down, their mind races, and they think they're failing. But the text says your mind will wander.
The wandering isn't the failure. The actual work, the heavy lifting, is noticing it wandered to your emails and forcefully dragging it back.
Yes. Every time you pull that drunk elephant back, the neural pathway gets thicker, your baseline ability to focus improves.
But man, that requires an immense amount of energy. It is exhausting to constantly override your default impulses.
It really is. Which is why the Gita provides a precise framework for managing your daily energetic state in chapters 14, 16, and 17. The gunas.
The three qualities of material nature. Let's unpack these, because it explains our daily moods so well. The first is sattva.
Sattva is piety, purity, joyful balance. When sattva is dominant, your mind is clear. You're in a state of flow, capable of selfless action. You aren't operating out of fear.
Then there is rajas. I feel like this is the default setting of the corporate world. It's described as passion, endless sensory pursuits, obsession.
Right. And in our culture, we glorify that. We say, hustle, find your passion.
Yeah, so why does the Gita frame rajas as a drain?
Because rajasic passion is agitated desire. It's constant craving. You're highly driven but deeply anxious. Biologically, your fight or flight response is constantly humming.
It's the rat race energy, and it burns massive cognitive fuel, which leads to the crash.
Yeah.
The third quality, tamas.
Tamas is ignorance, lethargy, delusion. You feel heavy, depressed, unmotivated. The mechanism is simple. You cannot sustain high rajas indefinitely.
Right, if you hustle frantically all week, feeding the drunk elephant dopamine, your nervous system exhausts itself. The crash into tamas is the body's forced shutdown.
Exactly. So the goal of a modern professional trying not to burn out is to maximize sattva and minimize rajas and tamas.
And the text gets so brutally practical about how to do this. Look at verses 6.16 and 6.17. It's not just about praying for good energy.
Krishna explicitly tells Arjuna you cannot achieve mental clarity if you overeat and gorge or undereat and starve, or if you oversleep or don't sleep at all.
It's the 5,000-year-old version of eat your veggies and go to bed. It demands strict moderation. If you're doom scrolling at 2 a.m., you are voluntarily flooding your system with tamas.
You simply cannot wake up the next day and expect sattvic clarity. Your physical baseline dictates your psychological ceiling. The body and mind are intrinsically linked.
So to maintain that sattvic energy, Chapter 17 prescribes a system of 3 specific daily austerities. Let's unpack them. First, physical austerity.
This means maintaining cleanliness, nonviolence, living honestly. Practically, it means keeping your workspace meticulously clean, treating your body with respect through diet and hydration.
I love that. A chaotic, cluttered desk directly creates a tamasic, confused mind. You're stressing yourself out before you even open a spreadsheet. Okay, the second one is my favorite. Vocal austerity, verse 17.15.
This one is so relevant today. Vocal austerity is using words that are truthful, pleasant to hear, and crucially, words that do not cause anxiety in others.
Okay, wait, I have to challenge this. What if I'm a manager and I have to fire someone or put them on a PAP? That inherently causes anxiety. Do I just lie and keep it pleasant?
Brilliant edge case, and it gets to the nuance. The first rule is the words must be truthful. It's about your intention and delivery.
Oh.
Are you speaking out of rajasic frustration, trying to belittle them? Or are you in a sattvic state, strictly addressing metrics, offering a clear path, and respecting their humanity?
That makes total sense. It's the difference between you're lazy and ruining this versus the output isn't meeting metrics, let's adjust. Imagine applying this to corporate Slack channels.
Oh, the global stress level would plummet. We're so quick to fire off a passive-aggressive email.
Or sending "we need to talk" at 4:55 p.m. The text warns that when you needlessly cause anxiety, you actively drag your own mind into a rajasic state of agitation.
Agitation is contagious. Guarding your speech creates a buffer of calm, which leads to the third type, mental austerity.
Verse 17.1c.
Serenity in thinking, an uncluttered mind focused on a higher purpose. Notice it's listed last. You can't achieve mental serenity without mastering the body and the tongue first.
It's a perfect architectural schematic. Manage inputs to avoid lethargy. Organize space to avoid distraction. Curate words to avoid social friction. Then the mind can finally achieve serenity.
It's a holistic plan for building a highly resilient human being.
Which brings us to the grand finale. We've explored the breakdown, redefining success, taming the drunk elephant, and managing energy. Let's synthesize this into the 5-day Gita weekly plan.
Let's build the actual routine. How should we structure the psychology of Monday?
Monday is the Nishkama audit. Based on verse 2.47, detaching from outcomes. Listeners, on Monday morning, identify your single most stress-inducing project. Write down the actionable steps, and then consciously surrender the outcome.
The practice here is decoupling your self-worth from the result. Remind yourself of the 5 prerequisites. You control the effort, not the divinity. You make a pact. I will execute with excellence, but the result won't dictate my value.
Focus purely on the effort. Okay, then Tuesday rolls around, the moderation reset. based on verses 6.16 and 6.17. It's Tuesday morning, you're exhausted, pounding your third coffee.
The chaotic momentum is building and Tomasic habits creep in. Tuesday is for strictly enforcing physical moderation. Audit your inputs. Are you masking exhaustion with caffeine?
Are you sacrificing sleep for emails?
Right. Eat sattvic meals, go to bed at a reasonable hour, clean your workspace, do maintenance on the physical apparatus.
Because you can't meditate in a hurricane.
All right, Wednesday, hump day, the Dhyana protocol, midweek focus training. From chapter 6, implement a 10-minute meditation. Find a quiet place, sit firmly with head and neck straight, and focus on the sensation of your breath.
And the key here is, expect the mind to wander. Expect the elephant to pull a chain. When it wanders to your stress, apply the forcible return.
Don't judge yourself, just calmly drag your attention back. 10 minutes of this completely resets your cognitive baseline. It's a circuit breaker for anxiety.
Now, Thursday, the hardest day in a corporate environment, vocal austerity day. For 24 hours, put an unyielding filter on your speech and emails.
The discipline is immense. You do not speak out of frustration. You opt out of office gossip. Every word must be truthful, pleasant, and designed not to cause anxiety.
If someone blames you in a meeting, your ego wants to destroy them. Vocal austerity forces you to pause, delete the fiery email, go for a walk, and rewrite it objectively. You stop leaking vital energy.
And finally, Friday, the equanimity challenge.
Bringing it back to verse 2.38, practice treating end-of-week highs and lows with perfect internal balance.
Fridays have wild swings. Glowing praise at 10 a.m., a massive crisis at 4 p.m., acknowledge the praise graciously without arrogance. Acknowledge the crisis without despair.
Treat success and failure as interchangeable sides of the exact same coin. The ultimate result is you walk out on Friday evening grounded, because the results never really belong to you anyway.
If you rigorously practice this week after week, it won't just manage burnout, it will fundamentally rewire your neurobiology and elevate your experience of life.
The Bhagavad Gita isn't just a dusty text to admire. It's a ruthlessly practical, mathematically precise manual. True liberation comes from doing your absolute best work while entirely releasing the ego's demand for the reward.
But a listener might be thinking, what if I fail? What if I yell at a coworker on Thursday? The text addresses this beautifully in verse 2.4. Krishna promises Arjuna, no sincere effort is ever wasted.
Oh, I love that.
Even a little effort protects you. Every time you pull the elephant back or choose vocal austerity, you build permanent resilience. The progress is cumulative.
No sincere effort is ever wasted. It takes the pressure off being perfect. Just keep trying. So, listeners, I want to leave you with a final thought. Think back to Arjuna, the greatest warrior, entirely paralyzed by the stakes. Now think about the most anxiety-inducing task on your to-do list right now, the one making your heart race. How would your approach to it change today, right this very second, if you truly believed that making a sincere, detached effort was the only thing required of you, and the ultimate result was simply none of your business?